Conserve Henry is a grassroots effort, and its main focus is about conserving Henry in regards to its ecosystem, its students, its education, its seniors. I mean, everything that we've been talking about during this whole thing is what the premise of Conserve Henry is. To figure out how to, one, elevate Conserve Henry more, and two, to use that platform to improve our community.
Have you been engaged and involved in politics before, or had any type of interest in Henry County politics? How did that come about?
About a year and a half ago, we were alerted in our neighborhood about an impending development that was going to happen right by our house. And I had really honestly knew nothing about local politics. I mean, I knew we had commissioners, I knew we had city council members, and I knew that they did the property taxes and zoning and all that stuff, but I really wasn't so involved with it. I mean, I kind of naively thought that our local government worked efficiently and I didn't really need to be as active in it. But then fast forward to, about a year and a half ago, where we get this alert that our property is going to have some development, and we go to the city of Stockbridge meeting, because at that time, and even currently, we're in unincorporated Henry County. So about sometime last year, Stockbridge started annexing off a lot of land in that area. So we were getting notifications about the annexations and, of course, the development. And so when I went to the first P&Z meeting for that one development, it was denied. Went home, didn't think anything else about it, thinking, we're going to have another hearing. It's going to be a process, because everything has to go through a process through the court system. Me in my head thinking, like, everything has a way of working it out legally. And if you just stick with it and you go and voice your concerns and fight for what you want, you're going to get, the result you wanted. However, about a week after that meeting, I went to BridgeFest, not having a clue about what BridgeFest was about. I went because my neighbors had said, hey, there's this free, carnival ride thing going on, and we can bring the kids. So I went, and I did not even have a clue that any of our city, council people were going to be there. So I get there, and I start noticing our city council members are there, and I'm like, hey, this would be a good time to talk about Patrick Henry, right? Because that was the development we were, getting ready to face. And so I go find the person or the council member over that district, and I go up, wide-eyed and bushy-tailed, thinking, like, I'm gonna have this great conversation, and he's gonna hear me out, right? And the moment I interact with him, he is extremely dismissive, very rude to me, and tells me whether I like it or not, everything that's gonna happen on Patrick Henry is a done deal, and there's nothing I can do about it. And if I don't like it, I can leave and move out. And I had never in my life been so taken aback from anybody to say that to me, number one, and two, for an elected official to say that. So I walked away from that whole situation thinking, man, something's just not right here, right? So go back home, start working with our community to get people involved to show up at these meetings, and we keep going to these meetings, and before you know it, everything's getting approved left and right, and they're approving without taking in any consideration about setbacks, variances, that as it would butt up to our neighborhood, right? And they're approving stuff that's going to lessen those setbacks and lessen those variances, and it's going to put our neighborhood and the schools that are within our area in a bad spot. Because currently that Patrick Henry development is in walking distance of 3 schools. So in my neighborhood, the vast majority of the middle and high school students walk to and from school and the surrounding houses. And the road in between the schools is very narrow, kind of like windy, and there's no sidewalks. But we never worried about that before because there was so much woods, kind of isolated. So even though crime had been rising over the years, we all as a community felt pretty safe about our kids walking because the school's just really such a short distance. But then this starts happening, and they're talking about putting 4 hotels, a car dealership, an entertainment venue, an apartment complex, a rental...
A car dealership?
Yeah. A car dealership, an entertainment venue, and not the apartments as well, and of course another rental, like cottage-style house situation right on the other side of Patrick Henry. So immediately my first thought is, okay, so not only are we going to destroy the property values of every homeowner in that area, but traffic's going to be a nightmare because Patrick Henry's a 2-lane road. There's no way that road could support anywhere near any of that development. And so, like, my neighborhood sits on the other side of Patrick Henry and cross intersects with Holloway. We're still in McDonough, and we're still in unincorporated Henry County.
So who approved the zoning for that project? Was it the city or was it the county?
The city.
The cities can annex any piece of property they want. There is money in annexing commercial. In terms
Correct.
Of the amount of money that you can collect in taxes.
And once that FLUM was changed in 2022 for our area, that in my opinion, I feel like our county officials did a disjustice to us by changing the FLUM the way that they did, because it's really what opened up for those annexations to happen. Because the moment that map changed is when we started getting more letters, more notifications about annexations happening.
You can't predict the future. You can't predict who's going to be in office. And there's been a change in the type of people that have gotten elected in this county. In those particular positions, you have to have people that can think strategically, that truly care about the community, truly care about neighborhoods. In the northern part of the county, I made sure that everything was 100% brick, four-side brick, commercial buildings, residential buildings. Since I moved out that community, all that has changed.
Right.
And those are the things that keep value for the citizens that are there. Once you start changing the specs to cheaper materials, now you're lowering the value of homes and people get hurt in the end.
You do, and not just the values of the homes, but the kids as well.
Right.
Because if we're gonna build all that off Patrick Henry, and that's in walking distance again of Eagles Landing Middle, Eagles Landing High, Noah's Ark Daycare. There's a church over there, I forget the name of it, but it also serves as a private school as well. And then of course you have Flippin Elementary that's maybe one street up. But that's in walking distance of several schools. And so we already have had multiple shootings, right? Or we had a big shooting, but we've had a lot of other kids bringing guns to school recently in the state of Georgia. Why would we increase that foot traffic so close to a school with all the safety concerns we have?
Agreed.
And at one point I was told by one of the members on the board that while they care about the kids of the county, because those schools were still in county land, it really wasn't their issue. And I mean, that's disheartening. And it was at that moment I started waking up and saying that we've got a problem here in Henry County. We really do. Because I couldn't even get our county officials to really respond to us. I couldn't get them to give us answers to even help us. I get an annexation, they can't really stop. But when you have your community coming to you going, is there an appellate process? Is there something we can do? And the constant answer you get is, well, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Or no response. Then where does that leave you as a citizen?
10 years ago, everyone was engaged, everyone was involved. So every decision that was made by the Board of Commissioners,
Right.
you thought through the decision because you knew that people were going to show up if they didn't like that decision.
Okay.
That kind of went away about 4 years ago. The newspapers don't really report on anything
Right.
that's going on in the county. And you can't believe the information that you read on the county's website as well as the city's website. So citizens have to be involved to hold elected officials accountable. And I'm happy to know that you guys are doing that.
We're trying. And, going back to, your statement about how we're not really letting the community know things and they're not getting the information that they need. That's a good point. I've been checking on meeting agendas, and a lot of times those agendas aren't even posted, and I'm the one having to reach out saying, hey, can we get the agenda so that we have time to review what's going to happen to us. And sometimes they're not getting posted till almost like a day or 2 days before the meeting.
Even with the elections, a lot of information is hidden. I have never seen a situation where the election supervisor resigns.
Yeah.
So there has to be something that has happened in the background, specifically given the fact that we've had all these issues around elections for the last 3 or 4 years.
That's a big concern for me as well. Being a new candidate and a write-in, I've had some questions and challenges that I've had with the board themselves prior to her resigning. I'd like to say since she's resigned, they're really trying a little bit harder to try to assist us all and whatnot. But in the beginning, my name wasn't even listed on the announcements. I'm not getting the same courtesies most candidates do in regards to making sure that people are at least aware that I'm a write-in. And it's going as far as starting tomorrow for early voting. I'm going to have to go check every location to make sure there's a sign posted. And I don't think that if I'm a citizen, right, I don't think I should have to fight my county leaders and governments and boards to do the right thing for us as citizens, because they're really supposed to be representatives of us. But I think a lot of them have decided that for them, the most important person or group or what have you in regards to making decisions for us as a county are the developers and the companies. I feel like I've been put in the back seat and ignored, and I feel like oftentimes there are decisions being made that are going to impact all of our qualities of life, but we are not getting any say in it whatsoever.
It's not about the citizen
No,
anymore.
it's not.
I mean, even when you look at the organizations, I attended the debate a couple of weeks ago, and when you got up there with the other commissioners, they asked you a question that was totally inappropriate. It had nothing to do with being a commissioner in Henry County, and it was only about African American health disparities. You're not a doctor, you're not a medical association. What does that have to do with you running for chair? I thought that you should have been asked the same question as the other commissioners, because all the commissioners do the same thing. The chair just runs the meeting.
Right. And I agree with you on that. First of all, I wasn't even invited to join that debater forum like every other candidate had been. So somebody had alerted me and I just showed up. The way that I was asked the questions, meaning,
It was adversarial.
Yeah, well, that, and you asked the 2 District 1 people running, hey, the same question, and then you say, hey, Ms. Snow, we're going to ask you something completely different.
But the issues are the same. It doesn't matter what district it is.
Correct.
The issues are the same, and even if you were asked a question that had to do with District 1, as the chair, you still have responsibility for that district. But all the issues are the same across the board.
Yep.
And it's all about the budget. What made you want to run for this seat? You talk about citizen engagement and being involved, which I think is tremendous. But what really made you want to jump in this race as a write-in, and why didn't you qualify?
It wasn't until a year and a half ago when the development started happening that I really started getting involved. But it was when I started meeting the people in the community. And I started hearing the stories of the things that were happening to them. We have people in our community where they have either been falsely arrested or falsely accused of doing something criminal. And in my opinion, it appears to be that somebody may be utilizing our legal resources as a weapon against our community. And that's just alarming to me, right?
It doesn't appear. That is the case.
It is the case, yes. And then I hear the stories about people being pushed in TAD developments and being almost forced out of their homes. And a lot of these are senior citizens, right? Because it usually, specifically in the area by the amphitheater, all the homes sitting behind that amphitheater. This might cause a big debate or controversy, but in my opinion, I felt like the amphitheater was intentionally placed there to push them out eventually and decrease their property values. And that's exactly what it has done, right? Not to mention it's completely destroyed their quality of life, right? If you go and visit that neighborhood or any of those neighborhoods in that area, because I have, right? Most of those people are senior citizens. And when you get at a senior citizen's age, you're no longer paying your school tax, right? And the reason for that is because you're more than likely living on a fixed income now, right? So you can't afford your taxes to continually go up. So the method that is going to be applied in that scenario is they're going to continually raise their taxes to where they can't even afford to live in their own homes anymore. But at that point, because they have crushed their property value, they're going to send some developer in there to lowball the number and push them out. And how is that right?
I have not gone to the amphitheater strictly because of what they're doing to those citizens. When you look at where it's built and you look at how those homes are positioned directly behind it, those people are listening to loud music every single weekend, and you're correct. They're elderly. They're on fixed incomes. It really hurts my heart that people are in their backyard basically partying every single weekend, and they have no voice at all in the entire process.
If they voice any concerns or if they stand up and say that what is happening to them is not right, the law is usually used against them and to try to silence them. One of the individuals I know in the community that was falsely arrested, he was falsely arrested because of stuff like this going on in Stockbridge.
Wow.
And I don't want to say his name or anything, but I'm just saying there's a lot going on there. And it's saddening to see any elected official look at a community, especially a vulnerable community, and decide their fate for them.
Why should the community change its current leadership?
I do believe our chair has lost complete sight of what's important. And I do believe that her full focus is on building developments and creating havoc on our infrastructure. I don't believe that she is doing what she needs to do ethically to ensure that we're getting what we deserve as citizens. I know that she has abused the legal system for her own means in regards to utilizing it against a private citizen. And I also am fully aware that, she does own some development companies, and so does some of her families. So how can we get fair and impartial, judgments or decisions if you have a financial, interest in the decision that you might be making?
What are your thoughts on the budget increasing nearly $100 million in 4 years? That has been a real burden on citizens, but citizens aren't speaking up about it.
I don't think a lot of citizens are aware of what's going on. I think, you have the ones that go to the meetings, the ones that watch the videos, the ones that pay attention a lot. But there are a lot of people who probably aren't aware of what's going on, and I know that.
But they see the tax bill.
They see the tax bill, right?
Do they know what to do? Do they know where to go?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think we have to work as a community to get the word out that what's happening here is part of a bigger issue within our local government, and that in order for us to solve it, we've all got to stand together and use our voice. And I mean, other than that, I don't know what else we can do other than that.
You have to use your voice. What I notice is the board always blames it on the school board.
So at some point, our county leaders need to quit using that as a crutch to deflect us citizens from what's really going on. Because what's really going on is that some of our county leaders are making decisions that do not make sense, that will negatively impact our property taxes, our schools, our community, our public safety, and our ecosystem. And that's really where it's at right now. It's not the school board. It's not all these other factors. I hear, crime's up everywhere. That is a true statement, right? But our crime's astronomical. We literally have somebody shot off Hudson Bridge this week. And literally 2 weeks before that, we had a young man missing for a couple of days that was found dead on Hudson Bridge. And then we have I see on Nextdoor constantly, how cars are getting broken in. My car was stolen out of my driveway in 2020 and went on a high-speed chase with 4 cops while asleep. I've been semi-assaulted in our neighborhood trying to help a neighbor out. 20 years ago, I could walk out of my door at 8 o'clock at night, walk down my road, and not have a care in the world. Present day, there's no way I'm walking out my door at 8 p.m. anymore because I'm worried about my safety.
Tell me about the forensic audit, and what would you be looking for in that audit?
So there's a couple things I would want to do, really. First would be the forensic audit to see where all of our money is going, right? And what's coming in, right? Let's see where it's all going, right? And the second thing would be a complete internal audit of contracts and agreements with any vendors or services we're utilizing in the county. We need to review all that to make sure, first of all, with our vendors, that whatever we're paying out, we're getting the most economical quality benefit from it, right? And I'm not saying that if we pull the contracts that there's got to be all these things wrong, but I'm assuming that we might have some things we need to look at that could really save us some serious money, right? And then in regards to the forensic audit, not to keep calling her out, but we're paying $100,000 right now a year for a personal security service based off a trumped up charge against a private citizen, which the Georgia Supreme Court just overturned a couple of weeks ago. It's $100,000 that could be used to go back into public safety, into education, into whatever we need in the county.
She had that security out the gate.
So then why were we paying for that? That's unheard of.
I have no idea. She used that as a means to leverage the fact that she needed it. So no, she had the security from day one.
Well, that's very, disheartening because that's not money that us as a community should need to invest in. It's not a matter of national security, and a county leader or county commissioner is a part-time position.
Very part-time.
We can't justify paying $100,000 a year for a bodyguard, and neither should our county chair. I don't think I've ever heard of anybody on a local level getting security detail. It's really, like I said, disheartening to see such a disconnect in our community, and to know that disconnect is being done at the hands of our local leadership. Transients aren't going to invest in our community. They're going to be in and out. And that's not what any community wants. You want stability.
Talk about your vision. We've talked about a bunch of things,
right.
But what is your vision for Henry County, and what do you want to do, and how will you implement that vision?
So that's a great question. So starting back to the forensic audit and the review internally of all the contracts, right? We've got to do that first, because if we do that first, we're going to find out where some financial resources may be that we can reutilize into our county the right way. The second thing would be to slow down development. Now, I know when I say that, there's a lot of people that say, oh my God, economic growth, you're going to kill it. No, that's not a true statement. We already have a lot of growth here, and we still have a lot of growth that's been approved that hasn't been built yet. So we need to slow that down until our infrastructure can catch up. I mean, that is one of the most important things that has to happen because that affects public safety. And in order to slow down that development, we're going to have to start requiring those developers to put in a little bit more effort, right? Because correct me if I'm wrong, a big part of the reason why we're seeing so much development is because the developers are not having to work within so much restrictions, whereas maybe some other counties may.
There needs to be restrictions.
Right.
And those restrictions have to be on the exterior and the interior. You want to attract the right type of people to this county. You want to attract the right income to this county. If you get caught in allowing developers to put up vinyl homes and things of that nature, you're going to attract a vinyl home buyer. You're going to reduce the income levels in this county. And once you start reducing the income levels, you're going to increase the crime.
I had got a call from a young lady in a community, but she has a D.R. Horton build that she bought in 2018, and the road was never finished, and she couldn't get the county commissioners to help her. So I'm going to be meeting with her on Wednesday to see what I could do, if anything. You know, even if I don't win, I would still want to try to help that community get their roads fixed. And we also need to make sure that our developers put in more green space into these developments, right? Because right now we're seeing all these like apartments and townhouses come up with virtually zero to no green space. It's like maximizing the land for the developer while decreasing our ecosystem, right? So that's got to stop.
When we went in the room and we sat down with developers, they knew that, you know, we meant business in terms of what we wanted in this county. Now you have people that don't really have any business experience, and they're walking in a room with people that have all kind of negotiating experience, and they're just going with what they're told.
Right.
And that's where we are. They're intimidated.
Yep.
They can't stand up. So that's where Henry County is being heard right now.
Right. Well, I think between the forensic audit, the review of the contracts, and then also doing a complete overhaul on what we are permitting development-wise and slowing down that development, it's going to help us increase, or it's going to help us find potentially more funds that can be utilized in our county appropriately. So that's one of my big, things I want to really get involved in to see what we can do. I want to see how we can improve on our senior services and our youth services. I want to see how we can support our education system better than what it has been. Because our kids, man, they're our future. And I don't want to see our kids fail in life. I want all of our kids in our community to have the best start possible. I really do. And I want to see our public safety improve. Remember that on November 5th, if you do not like the direction Henry County is going in, please write in Connie Snow. I'm going to be here to make a change for our community. I'm going to do the right thing. I cannot be bought. I will not be bought. I do not own any development companies, nor do I have any want or need to. I just want to do what's right for us as a community and get us back on track.